The date is October 4, 1957. A terrifying rhythmic beep descends from the heavens, broadcasting a message that shatters American confidence forever. The Soviet Union has launched Sputnik. A metal sphere, barely the size of a beach ball, is circling the planet, and with every orbit, it mocks the technological might of the United States. Panic does not simply ripple through Washington, it explodes. The Cold War has shifted from the ground to the stars, and America is losing. The public demands an answer. They demand a miracle. And the government, desperate to salvage a crumbling narrative of superiority, rushes to launch its own response, Project Vanguard. But history is cruel to the hasty. On December 6th, the nation gathers around television sets to watch the launch. Igniting with a roar, the Vanguard rocket rises a pitiful 4 feet into the air before losing thrust and collapsing back onto the pad in a catastrophic, humiliating fireball. The press calls it Flopnik. The humiliation is absolute. In this hour of national darkness, the spotlight swings violently toward one man, Wernher von Braun. The charismatic, brilliant German engineer who had once built V-2 rockets for the Third Reich is now America's best hope. The narrative crafted for the public is simple, heroic, and comforting. The genius scientist and his team of Army specialists will step in to save the day. They have the hardware. They have the discipline. They have the Jupiter C rocket, a modified Redstone missile that von Braun promises can do what the Navy's Vanguard could not. He is paraded before the cameras, the personification of Western scientific dominance. He is the father of the space age in waiting. But there is a lie resting at the heart of this story, a lie by omission that has been carefully excised from the textbooks. Behind the closed doors of the Army Ballistic Missile Agency, the atmosphere is not one of confidence, but of technical deadlock. The uncomfortable truth, buried deep in classified briefings, is that von Braun's rocket is technically incapable of the mission. The Redstone is a weapon of war, designed to carry a warhead a specific distance, not to hurl a satellite into orbital velocity. It is too heavy, it is too inefficient. The laws of physics are stubborn, and they do not bend for propaganda. To reach orbit, the first stage needs significantly more thrust than standard alcohol-based fuels can provide. The celebrated German engineering team is stuck. They have built a magnificent machine that lacks the heart to fly. They calculate and recalculate, but the numbers remain grim. Without a radical increase in power, without a chemical miracle, the Jupiter C is just another expensive firework. Von Braun, the supposed savior, is powerless. He doesn't need a better rocket. The metal is fine. He needs a fuel that does not exist. He needs a chemical concoction that defies the conventional wisdom of 1950s rocketry. While the newspapers print his face and crown him the king of the cosmos, the reality is that the American space program is stalled on the launch pad, waiting for a savior that the German team cannot provide. The man the world looks to is looking for help, and he will find it in the most unlikely of places, a basement laboratory at North American Aviation, where a woman whose name history has tried to erase is about to rewrite the laws of chemistry. While the generals and the German scientists paced in frustration, the solution lay hidden in the labyrinthine corridors of North American Aviation's Rocketdyne division. It was a world dominated entirely by men, 900 engineers, confident in their slide rules and their cigarettes. But among them, disregarded by the social hierarchy of the 1950s, was a single female technical analyst. Her name was Mary Sherman Morgan. She possessed no college degree, a fact that in any other era might have barred her entry, but her mind possessed an intuitive grasp of chemistry that bordered on the supernatural. She did not just understand how chemicals reacted, she understood how they wanted to behave. The assignment that landed on her desk was considered a poisoned chalice. The Army needed a new propellant for the Redstone engine. It had to be powerful enough to boost the thrust by a staggering percentage to lift the satellite. Yet it had to function within the existing hardware of the engine without melting it down. The male engineers had looked at the problem, shrugged, and declared it impossible. They believed the theoretical limits of alcohol in liquid oxygen had been reached. They were right about the alcohol, but they were wrong about the limits. Mary did not accept the word impossible. She retreated to her work, a solitary figure in a basement lab, surrounded by bubbling beakers and the acrid smell of failure that had permeated the program. She turned her attention to hydrazine. It was a volatile, toxic, and dangerous substance known for its instability. Most chemists avoided it. It was too unpredictable for the precise world of rocketry. But Mary saw potential where others saw peril. She began to experiment, looking for a partner agent that could tame the hydrazine while amplifying its explosive power. She spent weeks in deep analysis, calculating bond energies and thermal outputs. Finally, she found the missing piece, diethylene triamine. It was a bold, unprecedented hypothesis. She theorized that a specific blend of 60% unsymmetrical dimethylhydrazine and 40% diethylene triamine would create a hypergolic fuel, a substance that would ignite spontaneously upon contact with the oxidizer, delivering a massive, instantaneous kick of energy. She called her creation Hydyne. The military, obsessed with secrecy and desperate to confuse Soviet spies who might be monitoring their communications, gave it a whimsical code name, Bagel. It was a ridiculous name for a substance that was effectively liquid hellfire. The fuel was corrosive and highly toxic. It was a nightmare to handle. When the engineers first saw the specifications, they balked. They argued that it was too dangerous, that it would destroy the engines, that it couldn't be done. But Mary Sherman Morgan stood her ground. Her calculations were flawless. She hadn't just tweaked the existing math, she had invented a new chemical reality. She convinced the skeptical managers to run the tests. The engine roared to life, burning hotter and harder than it ever had before. The thrust metrics spiked. It worked. The bagel was the key. The woman in the basement had succeeded where the famous von Braun had failed, synthesizing the very lifeblood that would pump through the veins of the American space program. January 31, 1958. Cape Canaveral is tense. The air is thick with the memory of the Vanguard disaster. On the pad stands the Juno 1, a modified Jupiter C rocket. Inside its tanks sloshes Mary Sherman Morgan's Bagel, the volatile, toxic Hydyne that is the only thing standing between America and another national embarrassment. The countdown reaches 0. The engines ignite, but this time the result is different. The rocket does not falter. It screams into the night sky, riding a pillar of fire that burns with a ferocity the Redstone has never known before. It pierces the atmosphere, higher and faster, pushed by the chemical genius of a woman sitting thousands of miles away. Explorer 1 enters orbit. The signal comes back. Goldstone has the bird. America is back in the race. The space age has truly begun. The aftermath is a frenzy of celebration. Wernher von Braun is hoisted onto the shoulders of his team, a beaming hero bathed in the flashbulbs of the world's press. He appears on the cover of Time magazine. He is interviewed, feted, and canonized as the singular genius who delivered the United States from the shadow of Sputnik. The narrative is set in stone. The German rocket scientist saved the free world. And in the deafening roar of this applause, Mary Sherman Morgan is nowhere to be seen. There are no reporters at her door. There are no medals pinned to her chest. She is not invited to the parades. Her erasure was systemic and brutal.
Part of it was the crushing weight of gender bias in the 1950s. The press simply did not know how to process a female engineer, let alone one who had outsmarted the men. But the other part was the cold iron of national security. The composition of Hydyne was considered a state secret. Mary's work was classified, buried in files stamped top secret, her contribution redacted from the public record. She was a ghost in the machine she helped build. While von Braun basked in the glory, Mary went back to her life. She continued to work, to raise her family, to live in the quiet anonymity of the suburbs. She rarely spoke of her work. She didn't seek fame. She simply did the job that saved a nation, and then let the nation forget her. She died in 2004, almost completely unknown to the world she helped change. The silence surrounding her life was so profound that even her own son, George Morgan, did not know the magnitude of what she had done. It was only when he attempted to write her obituary that he stumbled into the void. He couldn't find the details. He started digging, peeling back the layers of classification and time. What he found shocked him. His mother was not just an employee. She was the linchpin. She was the one. He spent years piecing together the fragments of her legacy, fighting to drag her name out of the classified shadows. Today, we finally know the truth. Wernher von Braun built the body of the rocket, but Mary Sherman Morgan gave it its soul. She provided the fire, and though history tried to leave her in the dark, her brilliance burned too bright to remain hidden forever.